Good afternoon. You're listening to episode number 2 of Hokie Weather Watch Live right here on WUVT 90.7 FM Blacksburg. Just so for a quick recap, Hokie Weather Watch Live is a radio talk show geared towards the only thing that impacts us all, the weather. The science, the communication, or even the pop culture influences that the weather brings to our daily lives. We're going to touch on it all. Thank you for tuning in for our second episode. We're really excited to be here. Obviously, we're still in the kind of introductory phases. So,
hey, second episode, though, that's a pretty big feat for us, you know?
Oh my gosh, who are you?
I
don't even know who you are right now.
Well, some listeners might know. I'm a frequent on Wove It back in the day, but it's been a while.
We're going to get to you in just a second.
Okay, I'll mind my own business one second.
Just chill out, man. Just take it easy. Caitlin, introduce yourself, your name, and all that good stuff.
I am Caitlin Purcell, current incumbent WUVT Chief Meteorologist. I'm a sophomore studying communications and a little bit of meteorology, so.
Okay, I had to think of a question this week, and I think I'm going to go with what was the last movie that you saw?
Well, actually, Friday night, I watched A Day After Tomorrow, and I'm going to give the viewers a hint. It's not very realistic, but I think Aaron was saying the other day he watched it as a child and was pretty petrified, so.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't recommend. I'm going to say over the age of 13, maybe? Yeah, PG-13.
Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it?
I'm going to give it like a 6.5.
Dang.
Yeah.
Savage.
I'm kind of rough.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Aaron, what's up, man?
How's it going, Nick? So I'm Aaron Swiggett. I am the lead meteorologist of Hokie Weather Watch, and I am a junior studying meteorology here at Virginia Tech.
Okay. I'm Nick Gilmore. I studied Virginia. Shoot. I studied meteorology here at Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
I graduated in 2015. I work for WVTF in Roanoke. So, Jamie, now it's your turn.
Well, before we get to me, I think you guys are dodging bullets here because I don't think we found out what Aaron's last movie was.
What was the last movie you watched?
I think the last movie I watched was Mean Girls, actually.
Oh, there's always the one, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, was this
Guilty pleasure.
Was this someone else was wanting to watch it type of thing, or
No,
is this all on
me.
your own?
This was all me.
Hey, mad props for that.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Nick, you can't dodge it either, man.
The last movie I watched was Sully.
So you went to the theaters, huh?
I went to the theaters.
Is it worthwhile?
It was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know how truthful it was to the actual events, but it was really good.
So on the Caitlin 1 to 10 scale, the stricter one, which one would you?
I'd give it a 7.
7. Okay.
A little less harsh than me.
Yeah.
I'll do what I can.
Very
Generous.
good.
No.
Yeah. Well, you did already throw it over to me, so I'll just go from here, Nick.
The newbie.
The newbie.
Not
but
a
an
newbie
oldie.
at all.
The newbie, but an oldie. Some of you guys might recognize my voice here. I was on Wove It a few years back, actually, for 2 or 3 years. My name's James Morrow. People call me Jamie. I did Wove It, the 5 p.m. news breaks, and also Tech Talk for a little while. So you might recognize my voice on the Tech Talk program. I haven't been doing it lately, so if you were tuning in a couple hours earlier today, I would not be in the panelists this year, but I definitely enjoyed my time since that time. I've gotten the big boy job, similar to you, Nick. I'm actually working for the National Weather Service in Blacksburg. So for those that didn't know, all those, every time your favorite show is interrupted by a thunderstorm warning, The Big Bang Theory or something else is on.
The Big Bang Theory, all right.
That's my last movie, right? No. So, last time your favorite show has been interrupted, at least that organization that I work for is kind of responsible for that. So
basically you're
apologies.
saying we should all hate you.
No. Important life-saving information we're passing along.
This is so true.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And we'll probably get to that in a future
Do you
show.
watch The Big Bang Theory? I'm curious.
I do. I didn't just pull that reference out of left field, so I do enjoy it. It's one of my favorites.
Are you a fan?
I am.
Okay.
I am.
Who's your favorite on that show?
Oh, well, I gotta be Leonard. I mean, don't I look like a Leonard? Yeah. If this was TV, you guys would understand. But I am a Leonard in real life. So let's be real.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What was your last movie?
Yeah, so there's always also, I said to Aaron's response, there's always one, but there's always the one that's all a tearjerker. And have you guys ever seen 7 Pounds? It's I think it's Will Smith, and
Oh man.
I won't give you the premise because it's definitely a tearjerker. Not that
I'm
I
a sucker
cried.
for those.
But no, that was
Box of tissues later.
Oh yeah, that was a touching movie.
Did you watch this on your own?
No, I had other people, imaginary and real, both in attendance. So it was definitely a tearjerker. I think it has it's a pretty cool premise, but
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
that was my last one.
All right.
Way to put me on the spot there.
Thanks for sharing. No, I appreciate that. So Jamie, last week we asked all of our panelists, what was the thing that you loved the most about the major here at Tech, and then what was it that got you into meteorology in the first place?
Right. I'll start with what got me in first.
Go
And
for
I was actually a small kid. We were eating lunch out on the back porch. A thunderstorm had just rolled through. And I was sitting out there with my little brother and my dog. And before you know it, my dog just starts going crazy, grabs my pant leg, and completely rips it off. And this a very docile dog. So I was trying to figure out what in the world's going on. And
It ripped your pants leg?
yeah, it
Okay.
really wanted to get our attention, and it was just going crazy. And we're trying to
make
figure
sure
out.
that was correct.
That's quite unfortunate.
Yeah, I know. It was my favorite set of pants.
How-
But it was
how
one of
old
those
were you?
rip-away pants. Do you guys remember those rip-away
The
ones?
buttons down the side.
Oh, and then became shorts or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Pretty tight.
those were the jam back in the day. But no, so that completely pulled it off, and before you know it, there was a bolt of lightning that struck a telephone pole less than 100 feet from my house.
Wow.
So I always got to thinking, like, all right, what did that dog, or what did my dog know? How did he know that was going to happen before
Right.
it actually happened? So that was when it first started. I became a lifeguard not soon after that, and anytime you could look at your phone and say, there's a thunderstorm coming, I'm going to be paid to sit here and tell people to leave very shortly. So that
Right.
always helps too. But I think that really is what got me in. And I was lucky. I showed up at Tech as a geology major. Started disliking the whole measuring of rock formations.
Yeah, I have
and
to agree with you on that one.
yeah, and that got rough. And right as I was doing that, I got a newspaper article that came out in my home newspaper there, and it said meteorology is starting up at VT. So I was like, well, I'm already there. Why don't I give it a shot? And I went on the storm chase not too long after that, and I've been in love ever since. So
The rest is history.
yeah,
That's awesome, man.
yeah.
I have to know, how old were you when your dog ripped your pants off?
When you put it that way.
Which time, right?
Yeah. I was about 7. I would say I was like 7 to 10 age range.
And were you
so.
traumatized at all by this, or?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't help that
And just so the viewers at home know,
Mhm.
the listeners at home, he's wearing shorts right now.
I
so.
am. I haven't worn long pants since. I mean, the worst part, the thing that kept me from getting over it is that lightning strike took out our TV. So I've been just thinking about it
Oh,
ever since
man.
because I couldn't watch my favorite television show either. So
Okay.
it really hit home.
It's just a
sorry,
rough
man.
day. You lost your favorite pants and you couldn't watch your favorite TV show.
I know. It's not my finest hour. That's
And
for
here
sure.
you are today.
I know. It all happens for a reason.
We
right?
still like you. So.
Oh, well, thank you, Nick. I
okay.
appreciate that.
It's an honor to have you, Jamie.
Well,
for
thank
sure.
you.
So we have a big show for you today, obviously. So Jamie, you want to go ahead and tell us what we're getting into today?
Yeah, put the new guy on the spot.
Yeah, why not?
No, we do have a really cool show. We'll kind of touch on, we'll actually go from the heat, which we're all coming out of summer. We had the first day of fall this past week. And we'll actually talk about some ice, and it might not be the direction I've been leading you on. I'll touch on that here in a bit. Also, another Taste of Winter, as a VT tradition, makes a top 5 list, and it has some interesting company. We'll kind of go over that. And finally, Aaron will actually be talking to you today and talking about Hokie Weather Watch, the organization as a whole, and hopefully we'll come up with some exciting things that we have to look forward to. I know we just had the meeting, so
We did.
should be a good semester coming up. So.
Sounds like a good crew we have this year.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's gonna be lit.
Sounds like we have a pretty good show ahead of us.
Yeah.
Sounds great. So first things first, we want to make sure you have the ability at home to interact with the show with us and throughout the rest of the week. So Caitlin, can you let them know how they can do that?
Yes, our Twitter handle is HokieWXWatch, also Instagram. And our hashtag that we will see your tweets is HokieWX.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Before we get into our first topic, let's take a real quick break for a PSA.
WUVT would like to remind you not to drink and drive. It doesn't matter if you've had 1 drink or 10, if you're driving 100 miles or just 1. Alcohol impairs your motor coordination, and if you get behind the wheel under the influence of alcohol, you can kill yourself or somebody else. So do everyone a favor and make sure you don't drink and drive while under the influence of alcohol.
Cool. Thanks, Caitlin. Okay, so our first topic is, Jamie, you want to tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, so I kind of gave you a quick teaser there at the beginning, but we actually are having a ice issue on the Earth, and I'm sure you guys have heard about this. Some of the main stories have gone down in the past are about the polar bears and some of the climate issues that deal with some of the Arctic Circle and Antarctic. But so actually 2016 tied a record, tied 2007 with the second lowest Arctic sea ice minimum.
Wow.
And this was set on September 10th, so a few weeks back. But it's certainly something to watch, because if you look at some of the records, every single sea ice in the top 10, the sea ice minimums, have been since the year 2005. So 2005 was number 10, and everything since then has been some sort of top 10 record, with the exception of 1 or 2 years, including the all-time record in 2012, which actually continues to shatter this year's record. So just to give you some boring numbers here, 1.6 million square miles of Arctic ice currently remain as of September 10th in the Arctic. So that's about, that's about 290,000 miles greater than 2012's record, just to give you an idea of how much of a record that was in 2012. But this is certainly an ongoing issue, and when I explained the years, this last 10 to 15 have been just record setting.
Right.
It's kind of something we're going to have to start paying attention to, because this stuff not only has physical, scientific type responsibilities and issues, it plays some havoc on some of the other Earth observations.
Right. Can we talk about some of the repercussions we're going to see from this, or we have seen?
Yeah. So one of the biggest ones is sea level rise, and there's pretty good evidence. Anybody from the eastern shore of Virginia here? No? So if anywhere on the East Coast, or really any of the coasts, have noticed recently, some of the high tides, which usually don't give us issues, are actually starting to give us issues. It fills into the drainage pipes. It starts flooding some roadways that are near the seaboard. So this is certainly an issue with just generic sea level rise. And yes, for the most part, it's not drastic. 1 year you're not going to be 3 feet higher than the next, but this slow, steady decline in ice, and thus raising the sea level, has some pretty interesting effects. I mean, look at New Orleans. You heard a lot about New Orleans and their sea level alterations when Katrina came through.
Right.
But, I mean, they're already several feet below. Most of the cities several feet below sea level, and that's never going to improve. So you're starting to have more and more cities. The majority of our population are actually on the east or west coast. There's very few in number-wise in the center of the country.
And that brings up the issues when it's flooding and the storm surge from these hurricanes, and it's just becomes more and more dangerous.
Yeah. Even when Jamie and I were down there in New Orleans this past winter break, they actually had to flood the spillway for the first time. And how long was that? It was a long time.
Yeah, that was. I think they've only done it 7 times in its history, and it's been around since the 70s or something like that, right? So I don't have exact numbers, but yeah, it's one of those things where we're just having water issues, and I know you guys talked about the lack of water in parts of the country, and leading into it, there's actually been issues on the other front too. Areas that are usually wet, that have agriculture means, have capability of producing food, which is a huge issue for our country right now, or not just our country, but our the globe itself, as population continues to increase. But you start having areas that are usually wet that actually become more dry, and some of the storms and stuff, they're just getting worse in that aspect. And there's a theory that climate change, and I know people have some interesting opinions on this, so this is going down a pretty interesting hole, but there's the theory that potentially tropical storms are becoming stronger with the increase in sea level type temperature.
We talked about this a little bit last week.
I wrote a research paper on this my freshman year, like you said, it's still kind of uncertain. It might be a little too soon to tell if it has effects on the strength, but it's definitely something to consider, and it's another reason why we need to just watch what we're doing to our planet.
Definitely.
A question I had was, and I don't know if you'll be able to answer this or not, but is there any hard numbers on? You said that this year was close to the 2012 record, but it's not. Can you maybe talk a little bit about why this year wasn't as big of a record?
Well, yeah. So I don't think there's any hard. I mean, there's numbers on how many millions of square miles of sea ice are left. This year, tied with around 1.6 million. And this is a preliminary number, by the way. If you look down the list, a lot of these minimums were set in later September to even early October. So we're not quite out of the woods yet. It'll be interesting in the next couple of days if they come out with even lower numbers for this year. But this year was actually a year that they were thinking the sea level, or the ice, I'm sorry. They were thinking the ice amounts were actually, it was favorable for them to stay pretty full. And that's because, we've been having a pretty hot year around here. A lot of that has to do with the high pressure, which means up north, the colder air is being trapped up north and not allowed to come south.
Right.
And that's been a big thing so far this year. But last few weeks, that high pressure shifted. We've had some more of these gloomy days. And that kind of shows that the warmer air is actually getting pushed up into the Arctic and allowing some of this melting. Plus, you have the cyclones that go through, and that can certainly, the waves from that or just the generic roughness of the seas can have implications too. So in a year that's wasn't supposed to be impacted by much and still getting number 2, or at least tying number 2, that's pretty significant going forward.
Do you think we talked a little bit last week about the El Nino? And last year we had a record El Nino. Do you think that has anything to play with this?
It's tough to say, and I don't think it helped. A lot of times, but I'm just not familiar with exactly the implications for the Arctic when it comes to those types of teleconnections.
Gotcha.
It certainly probably doesn't help. I know we're transitioning slowly to a neutral to maybe La Nina. We're not 100% sure which direction we're going yet, but for the most part, I'm just unaware of any direct links they have to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about sea level rise, obviously being a big issue with ice melt. Is there anything else that could be problematic with melting ice?
Yeah, there's actually a lot of biological factors. I was reading an interesting article online, and there were someone that's researching the black. I'm going to butcher this, but it's the black guillemot. I think is.
I'm gonna go with guillemot.
Guillemot. Okay. Well, anyway, it's a small Arctic bird. The population's mainly located on one island out there, just south of the Arctic Circle there. And there's someone that's actually on the island studying them. And he said in the article, he was talking about how he's going out for these visuals and noticed that sometimes there's not even ice on the island anymore.
Really?
That's how much warmer they've gotten the last several years. And how their populations rely on the ice for, I don't know if it's for food purposes. I wasn't 100% sure for some of that stuff, but their populations have been dying out rapidly, and he's picking up dead birds left and right and taking them back to study what's going wrong with them. So certainly the bird population, but also the well-known polar bear. The polar bear's numbers have been declining for years now, and it's one of those things where we don't have much interaction with them other than the couple that we have at zoos and stuff. But, for the ones in the wild, we don't have much interaction, but they're certainly being negatively impacted.
Yeah, do we know how long this has exactly been going on? Do we know what year they...
Well, on one aspect, are you talking about specific polar bears? Or are you looking just...
no, polar bears,
okay.
yeah.
No, I'm not 100% sure. I know they've been having a long type of effects of slowly just dying out, and their populations, once it gets smaller, you have less breeding, and that's just a chain reaction type event. But I'm not 100% sure exactly for the polar bears. But this global warming stuff, we're coming out of an ice age if you think about it. I mean, there used to be ice sheets all the way down into central North America that are here year round.
Right.
We obviously don't see that nowadays. So yes, at some point we've gotten warmer, and it seems like we're continuing to get warmer. It's just the big argument, and we won't go into this much today, but the big argument is how much humans have influenced it. And that certainly is an argument that both sides have some leeway. However, it seems like everybody is slowly starting to agree that warming is occurring. Yeah. And I think that's pretty evident right now.
That was going to be my next question, actually.
It's all right.
No, that's okay. We talked a little bit last week about politics and how we, in the meteorology field, what our impact can be in an election year and all that good stuff. And obviously, even just the term global warming is highly politicized now. Do you guys remember the name of the documentary that Al Gore did?
Ooh.
I can't remember.
Green something? We'll see if we can look it up here real quick. But
well, have you guys seen that documentary?
I've seen bits and pieces of it. I don't think I've seen it all.
In the documentary, he talks about just
an inconvenient truth.
Yes, thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. This is
Nothing to do with green.
I
was wrong.
It's close enough.
Almost.
But he talks about like sea level rise impacting like high population areas like Miami and New Orleans. And I'm just wondering, I asked this question last week, but Jamie, you weren't here, so I'm curious to see what your take is. What can we do as a community of meteorologists to better warn the public about this when we live in such a crazy world where it's highly politicized right now? What can we do?
Right. And that's always a tough question. You know,
Right.
We get people calling all the time from both sides of the aisle saying, well, how are you going to make it better? Well, you know, in the weather industry, we're worried about what's happening today, what's happening tomorrow, the next day, not necessarily what's going to happen in 50 years or what happened 50 years ago. That's
Right.
more the climate
climate.
realm type thing. But, you know, there's still little things that we can try to educate them on. And that biggest part is education, because I think
I agree.
the 80 to 90% of the population just doesn't understand it. They might have heard it on a talk show that's, you know, most talk shows have some sort of bias. So whether you heard it from a left side talk show or a right side talk show of the issue, it really is, that's what they're going to believe, because that's their only education on it. If we can tell them the facts, let them make their own opinion, and then decide that hey, this is what I can do, whether it's a local thing like, oh, let's bike to work today, or if it's a national thing where the U.S. decides to put sanctions on some sort of carbon type issue. It really needs to come from both sides, because yes, we can personally do it at our level, but it's going to take everybody to buy in on that. And if we're only getting 5% of the population to buy in, and it's only the American population, that's a very small percentage of the actual world. So I think education is going to be the biggest feat from here on forward.
You working at the National Weather Service, do you know of anything that's currently in place to better educate people? Can you think of anything in specific?
We try our best to, and like I said, we're mainly on the weather, so we try our best to focus more around what's going to affect us. Yeah, here and now. You know, what is our area's biggest threats? And global warming just isn't, or I'm sorry, sea level rise that has to do with global warming isn't necessarily a threat to us here in Blue Ridge, but you know, some of the other factors could certainly play in. So we do our best to just kind of give them the upfront details, and like I said, we don't want to. We're not political. You know, we are the Weather Service. We do the best we can to give the public enough notification on an upcoming event, and sometimes our hands are tied in that aspect. But we do our best to at least educate them about what's going on.
Okay.
So some graphics on social media and stuff like that.
Nice. That was a good answer.
No, thank you.
It was well thought out. Sounds like you said that before.
I'll have to play this for my boss, right?
We'll obviously talk to you more somewhere down the road about your job. Anybody else want to add something about this?
Yeah.
I mean, like Jamie said, I do think one of the most important things, and what we don't necessarily think about, is what every individual person can do. And like you said, it can be a small scale effect that if everyone does, is going to contribute to the greater outcome, but we all need to be devoted to it, and the only way to get there is education.
Yeah,
It's
So
also
I
hard.
disagree with what you said pretty much.
It's hard to kind of put this all together, but it's also where people get their information. And with social media being such a big part of people's information and news outlet, actually, it's hard to get it all out and get everyone on the same page, because there's a lot of biases with that as well.
yeah.
Right. Well, some people hear climate change and just shut down.
Right.
So.
And some days I wish I could do that too.
Yeah.
You know, whether you're on one side or another, talking to them, talking to anybody about the other side is like a brick wall.
Right.
So.
Well, even for us in the meteorology community, that's like, we deal with the here and the now, today and tomorrow, and climate change is much more out into the future.
Right.
But it's something that I feel like that we have to deal with as well.
Yeah. We're on the front lines.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know. We're the first to be impacted. We're supposed to be the experts in the meteorology, climatology type realm. So if we can't understand it, how are we expecting everybody else to understand it without the education? So
And that goes back to like how most people in the general public, the only contact they have with a scientist is what they see on TV, the TV meteorologist. He is their scientist, their meteorologist, their climatologist all in one. So it's crazy to me. It's an uphill battle.
yeah, it is.
All right, we're going to take a really quick break, but when we get back, we're going to talk about A Taste of Winter and how VT ranked in the top 5 of I don't even see what list it was on, but we ranked in the top 5. I know, right? That was the best tease ever. So be sure to stay tuned. Come back and see us in just a few minutes.
Your shirt onto the floor as you were walking through your door. I was barely still awake from all the chances that we take. Nothing seemed to be okay. Something's coming, will you take me out? Something's coming, can't you hear me shout? There's a moment it can turn around. Another evening in another town. Watching the TV, lost remote. Another boring anecdote. I listen again to In Reverse. Think of the lines that I've rehearsed. Something's coming, will you take me out? Something's coming, can't you hear me shout? There's a moment it can turn around. Another evening in another town. Something's going, didn't take me out. We are leaving, can't you hear me shout? There's a moment it can turn around. Another evening in another town.
Back to Hokie Weather Watch Live. Jamie, can you give us a real quick weather tour around the country, man?
Yeah. No, it's actually a unique time of year because you got a lot of different things going on all at once. So I'll first start in California, as far away from Virginia as possible. And there's actually the fire danger out there is really big right now. We actually had a meteorologist who's what's called an incident meteorologist.
Right.
And he was out there on a fire for nearly 2 to possibly 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
And that fire is still uncontrolled, going crazy. So with some Santa Ana winds, I don't see that kind of diminishing anytime soon. So fire danger out there. But on the other side of things, we got flood warnings across much of the Corn Belt. That's the...
What is the Corn Belt?
Yeah, please explain where this is.
Oh, yeah. And that's more like the Iowa... the Dakota, the
Midwest.
The Midwest, okay. Especially the northern part of that.
Gotcha.
Mainly where a lot of our corn crops come out of, and they saw kind of the system that's going to be impacting us here over the next few days. Not that we're expecting flooding, but you certainly they saw several rounds of thunderstorms and stuff that caused their rivers to quickly rise and had some flash flooding and flooding issues out there. And speaking of an area that doesn't usually see flooding, Southwest Texas is currently under a flash flood watch, and it actually might have been upgraded to a warning. I'll have to double check that for you, but starting yesterday through Monday, it looks 6 to 10 inches of precip and in areas that Aaron and I and any storm chaser, Nick, you were out there a few times.
I
You know,
was.
the La Mesa, Odessa, Fort Stockton. We know that area well from this past year's chase, and they're actually mostly underwater. And
Wow.
you see a storm dump a half inch out there. I mean, Aaron, you can back me up on this.
Yeah, it closes all the roads down there.
Oh, everything's closed. There was a few times we were trying to come back this year, and we were turning around and not drowning. Sorry, that was the Weather Service.
That's a good idea.
Shameless plug.
That shameless plug. That was the Weather Service part of me here. But yeah, 6 to 10 inches of precip will not be good out there. They just don't have the soils to soak it in. So that'll be an interesting few days for them. Tropics remain active. We got, I think, 2 active storms. I think Carl's still floating around out there somewhere.
It's
So.
taking a turn back east though, right?
Yeah. I don't think any of them have any influence to us here in the next week or two. So we should be pretty quiet for there. But here's that taste of winter, and we'll actually be getting into it locally.
Winter?
But winter frost advisories in parts of the New England states, including a couple freeze warnings. So
Jamie, it's not even October yet.
Yeah, we're still struggling to get fall down here.
I know. I don't think we've been below 70 in how
No.
many months now? It's been a heck of a summertime.
It's crazy.
But fall's here, and it quickly becomes Bleaksburg around here, so it's just a matter of time. But that's kind of
Absolutely love that saying.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jamie.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you so much. So, speaking of winter, one of the biggest traditions here at Virginia Tech is whenever we see snow, we like to have a giant snowball fight out on the drill field.
Yep.
And I use the term "we" very lightly because this is something that I never did. I know.
You're
Man.
missing out,
I
man.
know. But Tech was recently ranked. What was the ranking?
So it was just the top 5. It was at the top of the list, so I'm going to say it's number 1, but I can't
Well, who did
verify that.
who did the ranking? Do you know?
That's a good question. Let me click on the link here. It looks like Washington Post. Looks like Washington Post did publish it there, but
Okay.
I think it was a separate entity. You know how every year they come out with those who has the best food, who has the best students, which students like it the best, that type of thing, and it was
Okay.
part of those rankings.
Interesting.
But yeah, the cadet versus civilian snowball fight. Matched up with some interesting ones. I kind of wanted to dive a little
Go
bit
for it,
deep
man.
without taking too much time away from Aaron. But Cornell University, this is the rest of the top 5. They have a Dragon Day. It's a custom parade with a giant model dragon that is ultimately set ablaze in the midst of reveling student body. So
What?
talk about a place for grad school for any listeners out there.
Holy
Cornell
cow.
seems like the place to be.
Those Ivy League schools now. Oh, man.
Quite
Yeah.
interesting.
You have a Nitrogen Day at Reed College. It sounds like they're a chemistry type
Yeah,
college.
celebrating the 7th element here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder what makes it so special out there. We'll have to look further into that. Some food traditions at Bernard College, and a tradition that would be illegal in the majority of states out of University of Colorado. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
So we joined
Alright.
a good group of traditions there, and
I'd say we're number 1 on this list.
I agree.
Yeah, I have to agree with that
Although
one.
I mean, setting a
Giant
dragon
dragon
on fire. I mean,
That's pretty legit. Not gonna lie.
right? So we're close first, if nothing else.
So I'm just curious, have any of you all taken a part of the snowball fight?
I have photographed the event a couple times.
Nice.
I did it last year, and I didn't realize that how outranked the cadets are. So all they do is
Poor
just
guy.
get flanked. They flank them and then attack and then flank again.
Okay.
So I was on the near side to the center of the drill field, and the cadets came around my left side, surrounding me, and then charged the civilians through me with my camera. Oh man, that was freaky. But it was really cool. They actually go all out. They have medics out there that attend to the wounded cadets who've hit by snowballs, and people really go all out. I actually saw one guy in nothing but his swim attire.
Okay.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
I saw multiple
Shout out
of
to the
those
swim
last
club
year.
here.
Yep.
That was me at one point.
Was it?
Well, I'm getting a weird look from Caitlin over here. Yeah, sorry about that. But now, Caitlin, have you ever? I knew you were pretty new. Did you get to go out?
Yeah, I
to-
did. My freshman year, we were prepared. I'm gonna have to say the civilians took the dub on that one. Had my friend on my shoulder, and I was just handing her snowballs. Got
Okay.
nailed in the back of the head a few times, but you got to take one for the team sometimes.
Yeah.
Last year was a good one for it. We had really
We had a
good
lot of
dense
snow. We did.
Yeah, there was like, 18 to, I mean, there was a good amount of snow on the ground, and it was perfect for snowballs from what I could tell. So.
Yeah, my freshman year was all powder, so people were just like having shovels and throwing in people's faces.
Hey, whatever works.
Yeah, the crazy part of that thing, and I've been around for a few years here at Virginia Tech, and I've never seen something so like aggressive, but then as soon as someone falls down, everything stops. Like everybody just knows that you don't want to trample somebody, you don't want to hurt them, you're not going to throw ice. It's just that controlled. So awesome. I mean, it's great. It's a great tradition, and I'm hoping we get a good storm this year to keep it going.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we've had some good snows here in the past few
What
years.
year was it that somebody took a picture and it ended up being like the #1 thing on Reddit? I don't remember what year that was.
Was it last year?
Was it the Virginia Tech and American flag?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
You know
was
what
my
I'm talking
freshman
about?
year.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what year was that?
That was the 2014 fall.
14?
Yeah.
Okay. So 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And there was some good drone aerial footage of this last year.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they're
crazy video.
yeah, and that's not necessarily a legal thing, so we certainly don't condone that. But I don't think the FAA was too keen on seeing that on YouTube, but still was some pretty cool stuff.
It was very neat.
Yeah,
So long story short, Virginia Tech, best school ever.
yeah,
So,
that's what I'm hearing.
that's all there is to it. All right, here next on Hokie Weather Watch Live, we've got the president, or not the president, but the...
What is your title?
What is your title, Aaron?
I'm the lead meteorologist of Hokie Weather Watch.
Yes, and we're talking to you a little bit today. Main thing that I want to know from you, and I'm sure that people at home want to know about, is what is exactly Hokie Weather Watch?
Okay, so Hokie Weather Watch is kind of what we're doing here. It's a student-run organization where we give students a chance to prepare their own forecast and present them to the media and to the public. So
Okay.
it's a very interesting thing that Jamie actually started and passed the reins on to me. But I think it's a really great opportunity. I've been a part of it for now 2 years, and I've really enjoyed it.
That's awesome. Can you talk about the different outlets that Hokie Weather Watch operates in?
Sure. So we have social media, which we've talked about a couple times on this show. We also do a couple broadcasts for forecasts on the 5 o'clock WVT.
The news break. There.
Yeah. So, Caitlin, you've done that.
Yes, you can catch me 5 p.m. on every Thursday. So
Oh, very nice.
Yep.
Shameless
Shout out.
plug.
keep an ear out for me.
Yeah,
And the second one of the day.
And it's a Monday through Friday thing, right? So
Yep.
every
Yes.
Monday through Friday, right
5
at 5
p.m. on the dot. We have news, weather, and sports.
Very cool.
Yep. So it gives the students a chance to present their own forecast because they're all written by the forecasters who say them, which is a great opportunity for them as well. And then we also have a blog that will have updated to current weather on the front page, and then specific blog entries for events that occur, say like a tropical system will be heading this way, or a winter storm, or just even a drought. You can catch all that latest news on that as well.
Okay. Do you do anything with the Collegiate Times?
Yeah, so we have people who will write for the Collegiate Times. I can't remember exactly. Was it Tuesdays?
I think they're unless
I don't know if they
something's
changed it or not.
Yeah, unless something's changed, I think both they might only have 2 publications now. I think both of them
Yeah.
have some sort of weather story in it, so
Yep.
it will be all over that.
Yep. So that's a good way too, because you also have to wrangle with people within the newspaper industry, which can be a beast in itself, but also very rewarding.
Okay. How would you get involved with Hokie Weather Watch if you wanted to?
Hokie Weather Watch, you can talk to us on any way. I can. I don't know if I'm allowed to give email addresses and stuff like that out, but
No, maybe not, but just reach out.
Yeah, you can definitely reach out. We have plenty of great things on social media that you can reach out to us to, and we can get you involved pretty quickly. And then there's no worries about worrying about forecasting or anything. You can. We're a big group. We're a big family, and we would love to help out people in any way that we can. So helping you forecast and getting your feet wet. That's just what we're here for.
That's awesome. I loved my time in Hokie Weather Watch because it allowed me to put the stuff together that I was learning in the classroom and actually apply it to something that people can actually use. So it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, well, you're still getting involved. You're doing Hokie Weather Watch Live.
I know,
right now.
man.
Here we are today.
You just can't get away from us.
Can't
now.
get rid of me. I'm so sorry.
I'm glad they asked us back, Nick.
I know, man.
Jeez, I was almost done with it.
You were almost out, man.
Almost
You
escaped.
didn't quite get there. We're going to take a quick break for a PSA.
Every 2 seconds, a person in the United States needs blood. Do your part by giving blood at your local Red Cross blood drive. One donation can help save the lives of 3 human beings. Visit redcrossblood.org for more information and to find a blood drive near you.
Cool. Thank you. What is a weather show without a forecast? So, Aaron, you want to give us a weekly forecast, man?
Sure. Just kind of going over a little bit what we had today. We've actually had a nice relief from the heat a little bit. This morning we had a backdoor cold front swing through our region last night. Brought in some low clouds and kind of keep the temperatures a little bit lower today, which was really nice to feel. But entering the work week, we have a pretty stout cold front that's going to be pushing through our region. That's going to cause a chance of showers that are going to be in the forecast for the beginning of this work week coming up. The high temperature for Monday and Tuesday will only get up to around 76 or so, and the lows will be dipping down to around 60. But that's nothing compared to what it's going to do after the front's going to pass, because we're going to have high pressure going to dominate this area with clearer skies and really cooler temperatures. Look for fall-like conditions with highs in the lower 70s, but lows dropping down to about the 40s. Man,
Wow.
Yeah,
that's going to be nice.
That's
There's
crazy.
some relief.
I can handle that. I don't know
Fall,
about you guys.
fall is
but,
finally coming.
Man,
I hope so.
last week of September. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. Well, we've made it through 2 episodes, guys. How do you feel?
That's number 2, man.
What's
two
number
more.
1 for you?
Oh, yeah, that is my first. Should I start my own tally here?
I think you should.
Every time I'm on, this is my 3rd. It's our 40th. Oh, okay.
Oh, man, Jamie. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thanks for having me
The
this
team
week.
is now complete.
I
That's
know.
right.
I
Dream
know.
team, man. Dream team. So some future shows. We want to tell you about what's coming up here on Hokie Weather Watch Live. Next week, we're going to be talking about a meteorological phenomenon that happens a lot here in Blacksburg, and it's called cold air damming. One of our Virginia Tech graduates, Dan Nelson, is going to be on. This is his bread and butter.
Yeah.
Yep.
You don't want to miss Dan Nelson.
No.
So I please be here for next week.
He is a well-known entity in the meteorology major,
He
so
is.
you guys it'll be a treat for you guys next week.
You don't want to miss out on that. And then October, we're sometime in October. I don't know when, but that's okay. We'll let you know when that happens. We're going to take a tour of the tropics with a new Virginia Tech professor, Stephanie Zick. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know how we managed to do that, but I'm excited.
It'll be a cozy show in here. We'll have to,
Sure
the
will.
guys in
Good.
here will have to make sure to update their deodorant and stuff to make sure we impress her, right? So I guess Caitlin, you're the
Oh,
one.
jeez.
I, know,
I was
sorry,
not quite sure where you were going with that. I got real scared.
Caitlin.
So on that note, I think that's the end of today's episode.
Started with my shorts and ended with deodorant, right?
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
Oh, dear.
Caitlin, can you tell everybody one more time how they can get in touch with us?
Right. The hashtag, once again, is HokieWX, and our Twitter and Instagram handle is HokieWXWatch. And yeah, you can tell us how we're doing at WUVT-FM.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here and joining us for episode 2 of Hokie Weather Watch Live. We'll see you next week.
Here we go to a twist of